Our story begins with a bold move. The first thing he does is devour the 9 surrounding ancestral houses to ensure he is born with the Pangu origin body. He now holds Pangu's 10 billion merits of creation. As his blood mass condenses into a sacred blood slip, his consciousness slowly drifts into a long slumber. We see the ages pass in the great wilderness, a world of shifting clouds and constant struggle where 10,000 races begin to take shape. First, the resentment of chaos demon gods brings forth a plague of ferocious beasts. Once they are defeated, the dragon, phoenix, and Chilan tribes rise to divide the world. But they are soon manipulated by the demon ancestor, Luoho. A bloody battle at Mount Bujo turns the 3 tribes into mere sacrifices for his dark path. The war between immortals and demons follows, shattering Mount Shumi and ruining the spiritual veins of the West as new players take the stage. As the curtain falls on the old tribes, the era of the Wu and the Yao begins. For eons, the 3 blood masses remain together, their fates intertwined. Their laws mingled in perfect harmony, almost like family, really. However, it was Xianming and Ho Tu who were the first to finally take human form. Because he devoured the blood of 10 ancestral houses, his foundation is simply too deep. Naturally, his refinement process is going to take much longer. Within the Panga blood pool, other great Wu began to emerge. Each one of them stopped to bow before the massive blood slip where he slept. Led by Xianming and Ho Tu, they left the hall to expand from the roots of Mount Bujo, slowly claiming the vast lands for themselves. They established countless tribes across the earth. Meanwhile, far away on the Sun Star, Dijun and Dong Huangtai were also taking their forms. Within the Sun Palace, they founded the Yao tribe. Soon, friction between the Wu and Yao began to spark, and the scent of a great calamity filled the air. Since he had yet to transform, the Wu tribe's top strength rested solely on Xianming and Ho Tuesday. To be honest, they were quite short-handed. While they mastered the laws of the Great Tao, the 2 Yao emperors possessed powerful innate treasures that made them formidable opponents. With their superior numbers and divine artifacts, the Yao tribe began to slowly gain the upper hand. It was a tense time for our protagonists. It was only natural, considering the Wu were missing 10 of their ancestral leaders. Back at Mount Bujo, the ancestral hall remained a heavily guarded sanctuary. We see a woman dressed in earthy, yellow robes standing within. This is Ho Tu, one of the most respected figures of the Wu tribe. She gently strokes the blood slip, whispering to her brother and asking when he will finally wake. She and her sister are reaching their limits. The Yao tribe grows more arrogant by the day, and many of their kin have already fallen. And here, the matter becomes far more complicated. She sighs, noting that the Yao are now attacking the North Sea, and her sister Xianming has already gone to intercept them. If only her brother were awake, things would be different. In this moment, Ho Tu doesn't look like a powerful leader of the Wu tribe at all. She is merely a young girl sharing her deepest worries. But no matter how much she speaks, the sacred blood slip remains silent, offering no response. Just then, a young woman riding a massive fire phoenix and dressed in wild beast skins arrives, radiating a fierce and untamed energy as she soars through the sky. This is none other than Jiu Foam, a great Wu of the tribe, who leaps down from her mount. She kneels before Ho Tu as her 1,000-foot fire phoenix vanishes into sparks. Her face is pale with urgency as she reports that Yao tracks have been found outside the hall. It seems a Yao saint has arrived. Hearing this, Ho Tu's expression turns cold as ice, and her overwhelming pressure as an ancestral Wu floods the room. The vulnerable girl from a moment ago is gone. Insulted that they would dare treat the Wu as if they were defenseless, she causes the very earth to split open. A 10,000-foot earth dragon rises from the fissure, and Ho Tu rides it toward the exit with Jiu Foam close behind. However, they both fail to notice something crucial. The blood slip, which had remained motionless for thousands of years, suddenly begins to throb with life. Outside, the Wu and Yao have already engaged in a brutal clash. On the ground, massive Wu warriors standing hundreds of feet tall roar at the heavens, while an army of 400,000 Yao soldiers descends on auspicious clouds. They are led by 4 great Yao saints, Bai Zhe, Ji Ming, Ying Zhao, and Fei Dan. Each of them is a powerful Daluo golden immortal, capable of reshaping worlds. Ji Ming credits their success to their brilliant military planning, which allowed them to deceive the heavens and cross the sea to reach this sacred Wu stronghold. The white-robed Bai Zhe smiles faintly, tucking his sole treasure, the Bai Zhe map, into his brow. He explains that this risky move was necessary for the Yao to truly flourish. Their goal is simple, yet devastating: destroy the Wu tribe's sacred blood source. To be honest, it is a cold-blooded but effective strategy. Without the ability to create new kin, the Wu tribe will eventually wither away, leaving the Yao to rule the great wilderness without challenge. Bai Zhe promises the generals that if they succeed in this gamble, every Yao in the world will chant their names in gratitude for generations to come. The promise of glory and divine rewards hangs in the air, fueling their ambition. The Yao soldiers grow frenzied at the thought of the rewards and the chance to hear a sermon from the Great Lord. They descend like a violent storm of demonic wind. 10,000 treasures and countless streaks of light rain down from the sky, accompanied by powerful spells that cause the very void to tremble and twist. But the Wu are not so easily broken. A 1,000-foot giant on the ground raises a massive bow and, with a thunderous roar, releases a volley of 1,000 arrows. The arrows shoot upward like a crashing tide, carrying immense power as they strike the descending Yao warriors, causing many to fall from the clouds. They tumble through the air, their descent seemingly endless. And then, they hit the ground. We realize this is the work of the great Wu, Ho-E, whose archery is unmatched in the great wilderness. Bai Zhe, far from being intimidated, is merely enraged. With a wave of his hand, he summons the Bai Zhe map once more. As it flips and lands on the ground, it transforms into a massive, shimmering portal. Strange, guttural roars echo from the gate as thousands of ancient, mindless beasts with blood-red eyes begin to stampede out into the battlefield. There are thousands of them, and each beast possesses a cultivation level that is certainly no weaker than an ordinary Tai. They are true golden immortals of destruction. Ho-E roars in fury as he battles the beasts. Although his strength rivals a Daluo golden immortal, facing 4 of them at once is a different matter entirely. Ying Zhao and Fei Dan are more than enough to keep him pinned down. Just as the Wu tribe loses hundreds of warriors, the situation shifts. Suddenly, the earth shatters and the mountains tremble. Massive fissures appear out of nowhere, and the frenzied beasts begin to stumble into the deep chasms. The beasts let out powerful roars of frustration. Suddenly, both the Wu and Yao feel the sky turn dark, as if a heavy shroud of black clouds has completely covered the sun. A massive surge of magic strikes the Bai Zhe map, and streaks of mysterious light shoot into the Yao army, pulling hundreds of thousands of soldiers inside. As for those thousands of ancient beasts he worked so hard to collect, well, there simply wasn't enough time to save them from the impact. The beasts are instantly crushed into the earth. From the dust, a 10,000-foot earth dragon rises, and upon its head stands a woman of peerless grace. It is Ho Tuesday. Her voice rings out, asking who dares to act so insolently on Wu territory, her aura rising like that of a peerless saint. The Wu warriors shout with fanatical joy, chanting her name. Bai Zhe's expression, however, turns incredibly grim. This is the worst possible scenario. The 2 Yao emperors attacked the North Sea specifically to lure the ancestral Wu away, but it seems only one of them actually took the bait. And now they face Ho Tu, the master of the great Tao of Earth. Among the female cultivators of the great wilderness, she is truly second to none. We see that ordinary immortals are simply no match for her. With her guarding the ancestral hall, any attack would be twice the effort for half the result. The Bai Zhe map flashes, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers appear. These confused Yao soldiers find themselves high in the air, but the moment they lay eyes on Ho Tu standing atop her 10,000-foot earth dragon, panic begins to take root in their hearts. Their morale collapses instantly. Ho Tu, looking as formidable as ever, merely raises her hand slightly, and the earth responds with a series of thunderous roars. Mountain ranges rise from the ground, connecting in an instant to form winding, spiraling dragons of earth. They stretch for millions of feet, creating a massive earthen cage. Suddenly, it is the Yao who find themselves surrounded. Bai Zhe, the Yao strategist known for being as cunning as a fox, seems to have led his own people into a dead end. Ho Tu declares she will take his life, but Bai Zhe only chuckles. He cannot die yet, not before the Yao rise to power. And as it turns out, he didn't come unprepared. Before his departure, the Yao Emperor gave him a supreme treasure to ensure success. Bai Zhe calmly tells Ho Tu that her luck has run out, and we see why. From his sleeve, a small, ancient-looking bell emerges. It is a deep, yellowish bronze color, and while it looks simple enough, it carries an aura that feels, well, primordial. It radiates an infinite destiny, a terrifying power capable of suppressing the very mountains and seas. Once thrown, it expands in the wind, growing as large as a dragon. Its surface is engraved with all the living things of the great wilderness, so lifelike they seem ready to manifest. The bell tolls, its sound tearing through the highest heavens. This is the power to suppress the universe itself and twist the very fabric of time and space. To be honest, it's a bit much for a single battlefield. It possesses the merit of evolving heavenly secrets and the ability to refine the elements of earth, water, wind, and fire. It can even freeze time and space entirely. It is the Chaos Bell, a supreme treasure that combines absolute offense and defense into one. The moment Ho Tu recognizes it, her expression shifts to one of pure dread. She has suffered enough at the hands of this treasure during past conflicts to know exactly how dangerous it is. She knows she must act immediately. She tries to retreat, hoping to pull the Wu warriors into her protection first, but she is a fraction of a second too slow. A hum echoes, like a bell tolling from the beginning of time. The void ripples like a lake hit by a massive stone. In an instant, the very concepts of time and space lose their meaning. Everything simply stops. Time itself seems to freeze, and Ho Tu's movements become agonizingly slow. Her eyes flash with desperation as she tries to surge her blood chi to manifest her true form. But before she can transform, the yellowish light of the Chaos Bell shoots forward like a streak of lightning. It is far faster than her realization. The light envelopes Ho-Tu, locking her body in the void before tearing through reality to pull her into another dimension. She is being suppressed within the Bell's own world. The space inside the Bell becomes a world of its own, severed from the great wilderness. Baize's wild laughter rings out, mocking the fallen ancestral Wu. Baize realizes that since Ho-Tu is too powerful to defeat outright, he only needs to trap her. With her out of the way, he intends to claim the lives of every Wu warrior present. He declares that the Wu territory will be destroyed by his hand today. Finally, a look of pure rage flashes across Ho-Tu's face as she throws a punch fueled by her immense physical strength. The blow strikes the inner wall of the Chaos Bell with a deafening boom, but the recoil is so violent it leaves even the mighty Ho-Tu reeling with a massive headache. With their protector trapped, the Wu warriors outside the Ancestral Hall quickly lose ground. Even with the great warriors Ho-Yi and Jiufeng leading them, they struggle against the Yao onslaught. The other great Wu are busy guarding their own distant tribes, far too far away to provide any help. Jiufeng summons a fire phoenix to repel the projectiles, but the situation remains dire. Suddenly, she is struck by Ji Meng's club until she coughs up blood. Her short red hair bristles, and her muscles ignite with flames as she activates her law-manifesting heaven and earth technique. She transforms into a 1,000-foot giantess, sending Ji Meng flying with a single punch before charging toward the area covered by the Chaos Bell to rescue Ho-Tu. However, the space where the massive bell sits has already begun to warp and twist. To be honest, it is no longer even part of the Great Wilderness dimension. Before Jiufeng can even touch the bell's surface, the recoil force blasts her backward. She collapses, spitting blood, unable to withstand the power of a primordial treasure. This treasure stands invincible across endless heavens, leaving its wielder untouchable. A look of utter despair washes over Jiufeng's bronze-skinned face as she watches her kin fall. She watches the slaughter of her people, her lips moving as she begins to murmur a soft, desperate prayer. Suddenly, a sound begins to echo, a steady, rhythmic thumping that seems to vibrate through the very earth itself. This sound ripples across the entire great wilderness. Throughout the world, countless ancient beings open their eyes, their expressions shifting as they begin to calculate the heavenly secrets. Outside the Ancestral Hall, the effect is immediate. Hundreds of thousands of Yao soldiers find their magic power suppressed, leaving them completely unable to move. Thump, thump, thump. The heartbeat grows louder and louder. Strangely enough, the heartbeats of the Yao elite begin to sync up with this mysterious, ancient rhythm. But we soon realize this isn't a normal heartbeat. It is the pulsing of the 100,000-foot blood cocoon inside the hall. Its blood chi surges like a violent tide. The spiritual energy becomes as vast as the sea. For millions of miles, the primordial essence of the world is being sucked in, pouring directly into the Ancestral Hall. Inside the hall, the blood cocoon expands to 1,000,000 feet before suddenly bursting apart. A divine light erupts, and a streak of blood-red energy shoots out from within. This streak of light blurs past the hall's interior and emerges outside. Within the glow, we can see the faint outline of a human figure radiating an unimaginable heat. The figure is enveloped in blood-colored flames, carrying a presence that feels like it could destroy heaven and earth. Slowly, the mysterious shadow looks up. Golden light erupts from his eyes, piercing straight through the heavens with blinding intensity. The sheer force of his gaze seems to challenge the very stars above. As the divine light and strange visions gradually fade, the man's true form is revealed, a handsome face with sharp, noble features. His physique is powerful and agile, the perfect manifestation of the Pangu source body, designed for the ultimate path of cultivation. He laughs, declaring that Wu Tian has finally entered the world, as billions of purple lightning bolts tear through the sky in a display of heavenly wrath. Jiufeng, lying in the dirt and covered in blood, stares blankly at this magnificent man, wondering if this is truly the great Wu Emperor. With a single sweep of his divine sense, Wu Tian spots Ho-Tu trapped within the bell, and a cold rage begins to boil within him. While ordinary Wu warriors lack divine sense, Wu Tian is different. Having devoured the 10 ancestral essences, he has achieved a soul-body harmony. His primordial spirit is now as formidable as the 3 pure ones, allowing him to perceive every detail of the battlefield with absolute clarity. As his anger flares, the very space around him begins to tremble. Baize swallows hard, struggling to break free from the crushing pressure. The Yao strategist demands to know who he is. Wu Tian, he replies, his voice echoing with a dominance that shakes the 4 corners of the world. Outside the hall, the Wu warriors feel their blood stir at the sound of his voice, their eyes filling with a newfound, fierce hope. They cry out that their emperor has finally arrived, and that the Yao will never again be able to oppress the Wu people. They believe that as the true descendants of Pangu, they can finally stand tall at the peak of the great wilderness and honor their father god. Looking at his kin, Wu Tian's initial excitement fades into a deep, murderous intent that mirrors the vastness of a starlit sea. Baize tries to test him, scoffing that not even the ancestral Wu would dare such arrogance, questioning if he is merely another transformed spirit. Wu Tian has reached the pinnacle of the great Dayuo Golden Immortal Realm, a level of power that Baize simply cannot fathom. Ignoring the chatter, Wu Tian pulls back his right fist. His millions of years of slumber were spent refining his blood and mastering Panga's legacy. Having mastered the 6th rotation of the 9 Revolutions' mysterious art, he is confident that his physical strength is now unrivaled under heaven. He decides to test his power on the spot, viewing the hundreds of thousands of Yao soldiers as nothing more than convenient practice targets. As the Yao soldiers gaze at Wu Tian standing before the Ancestral Hall, he appears to them not as a man, but as a chaos demon god finally awakening. Their hearts tremble with a primal fear that no cultivation can suppress. Desperate to escape the crushing pressure, the soldiers begin to burn their very essence. Streaks of light scatter across the sky as even the 4 great Yao beasts attempt to flee, their instincts screaming at them to run. Wu Tian simply watches with a faint, knowing smile, his muscles rippling as his blood surges with an unstoppable force. He concentrates his entire being into a single fist, launching a strike toward the heavens that carries the weight of mountains and seas. The punch stirs the very atmosphere, forming a massive, growing vortex of energy that pierces through the 9 heavens like an omen of the world's end. The fleeing Yao soldiers find themselves caught in the wake of a power they cannot hope to match. It is a display of absolute dominance. To be honest, had he applied just a bit more precision to that strike, he likely would have ended Baize right then and there. His divine sense reveals that Baize used a feigned death technique to escape, so Wu Tian shifts his focus to the chaos bell hovering between reality and illusion. We see the artifact protected by 49 innate restrictions, 42 of which have already been refined by the formidable Dongwang Tai. By imprinting his own divine sense, Tai has claimed the bell, but Wu Tian believes that even these divine seals can be ground into nothingness. He refuses to let a treasure born from Father God Pangu remain in the hands of those he considers mere feathered beasts. Raising his hands, he activates the laws of space and time. With Baize gone, the Chaos Bell is momentarily left without a master to guide it. The treasure manifests from another dimension, and sensing danger, it immediately attempts to flee as a streak of light. But Wu Tian isn't about to let his prize slip away. He reaches out, manifesting a colossal, pitch-black hand through the void. This supreme hand looms over the artifact, radiating a dark, overwhelming power. Under his touch, the divine seals placed by Tai begin to melt away like spring snow under a relentless sun. Even the final 7 unrefined restrictions are ground down by his great demon extinction hand. Meanwhile, billions of miles away in the frozen North Sea, Dongwang Tai suddenly coughs up a mouthful of blood, roaring in fury as he feels his connection to the Chaos Bell being forcibly erased. With his primordial spirit severely wounded, Dongwang Tai coughs up another mouthful of essence blood and collapses right there beside Emperor Dijun. Dijun's expression shifts instantly. He rushes to support Tai while desperately trying to calculate the cause through divination. But as the great calamity intensifies, he finds himself unable to pierce the veil regarding the Wu clan. Meanwhile, back at the hall, the Chaos Bell has officially become a masterless object. All 49 innate restrictions have been ground away, meaning Wu Tian only needs to imprint his own divine sense to fully claim this primordial treasure. It takes very little effort indeed. With a simple reach of his hand, the bell falls into his grasp, and a flash of joy crosses his eyes. What a magnificent prize! Its 5-colored radiance illuminates the heavens, and its chaotic holy power is enough to intimidate the world. To be honest, holding such a shield makes one practically invincible. The vast universe trembles, and the very earth loses its color before it. He can hardly believe such a treasure fell into his hands so easily. His system is truly reliable. Sensing the aura of a true descendant of Pangu, the Chaos Bell finally settles down. We see Wu Tian begin the process of making it his own. His divine sense descends upon the restrictions, imprinting his mark. After refining the first few layers, he tucks the Chaos Bell safely into his sea of consciousness. However, he immediately notices something strange. His divine sense detects invisible threads of red energy swirling through the cracks of the 9 heavens for millions of miles. This is the power of karma, condensed from the slaughter of the Yao cultivators. Such karmic debt usually erodes one's merit and invites disaster. The karmic weight of over 300,000 Yao soldiers and 3 great Luo golden immortals is certainly nothing to sneeze at. He realizes that in his past life, the merit inherited by the 12 ancestral witches was likely ground into nothingness by this very accumulation of karmic debt. That is why they eventually met such tragic ends. But Wu Tian is different from the ancestral witches. He has already consumed the essence of the 10 great ancestors. He has achieved the true Pangu source body and even tamed the rebellious Dutian gods and demons, refining them into a singular, powerful divine ability. The Dutian Fiend Qi is a supreme killing force, forged from the resentment and karmic energy of 3,000 chaos demon gods. Its grade is infinitely higher than this mere Yao karma. If used against a virtuous cultivator, it could erase their cultivation or even destroy their primordial spirit. It is, quite frankly, one of the most sinister tools in existence. Compared to that, the karma from the Yao clan is a minor concern. While others would view even a sliver of this red karmic liquid as a terrifying omen of doom, Wu Tian watches with a calm, observant eye. The Dutian fiend chi within him begins to devour the red karma, treating the supposed curse as if it were a delicious, fortifying meal. A black dragon coils and weaves through the air, and in no time at all, it devours every drop of that karmic liquid, turning it into nourishment for his divine ability. Once the dragon has had its fill, it returns obediently to the palm of his hand. He hasn't been tainted by a single speck of the karmic debt from those 300,000 Yao. This method is far superior to that of the ancestor of the Blood Sea, Mingi. Mingi possesses two swords, Abi and Yuantu, which allow him to kill without attracting karma. Those spiritual treasures simply absorb the karmic liquid, but if Mingi were to use any other method, he would still be stained. Wu Tian's situation, however, is quite different. He can actually transform that karmic energy into nutrients to cultivate his Dutian gods and demons' ability. With the karma handled, we see him finally turn around. Not far behind him stands a dignified woman, his own sister, the ancestral witch Hutu. At this moment, Huta's eyes are brimming with tears, yet she wears a joyful smile. She gazes at him with immense emotion, asking if her brother has truly taken form or if this is just a dream. With a flicker of his space laws, a spatial portal opens, and with a single step, Wu Tian appears directly in front of Hutu. A gentle smile plays across his handsome face as he assures her. It is certainly no dream. He tells his dear sister that she has worked truly hard during the years he was away. Hearing his voice, just as gentle as it was 10,000 years ago, when their primordial spirits first connected, Hutu can no longer hold back. The tears flow freely as she throws herself directly into his embrace, like a bird returning to its nest. In this moment, she is no longer a powerful overlord of the Wu clan. She is simply a young girl who has found someone to lean on. Sensing the warmth in his arms, Wu Tian rests his large hand on Hutu's hair, stroking it gently to offer her comfort. To be honest, it is a rare moment of peace for them both. He speaks softly, soothing her heart as the weight of her long vigil finally begins to lift. The surrounding Wu clan members are also moved to tears. They are a simple, honest people who respect the ancestral witches like father figures, and they feel this joy deeply. He tells her that since he is here now, no one will bully her again. He playfully chides her not to cry, noting she is all grown up but still has the heart of a little girl. He warns her that the young warriors might laugh, and as he speaks, he gently wipes the tears from her face. Hutu's beautiful cheeks flush a deep shade of crimson. Suddenly, her ancestral witch pressure flares out, weighing down on the surrounding Wu clansmen who are peeking. It seems she wants to pin them to the ground so she can keep talking. This display of petty temper is quite different from her usual compassionate self. Wu Tian, watching this with a look of complete disbelief, finds himself quite speechless. He gives her a firm pat on the backside, reminding her that these warriors risked their lives to guard the hall. He tells her she shouldn't treat them this way, especially since they are injured. Startled by the sudden swat, Hutu trembles slightly and stops being so willful. However, as Wu Tian turns around, he realizes he is now facing 100 times more emotion from her. Her small hands clutch him tightly, refusing to let go for even a second. Hutu is still terrified that this is all a cruel illusion, fearing that if she releases her grip, he will simply vanish. Seeing her hold on so desperately, Wu Tian can only shake his head with a helpless, amused smile. He places a large hand around Hutu's soft shoulders, leading her toward the gathered Wu warriors. Before them stand the sons of the Wu clan, every one of them wounded. Even the great witches Hui and Jiufeng are heavily injured, yet their eyes are wide with disbelief. They gaze at Wu Tian and Hutu as if turned to stone. Looking into those earnest, hopeful eyes, a sudden sense of responsibility is born within his heart, the undeniable bond of shared blood. He understands their loyalty without a single word being spoken. With a wave of his hand, he activates the Wood Dao laws originally belonging to Gamong, and the surrounding earth begins to pulse. Strangely, the survivors aren't mourning their fallen. To the Wu clan, death is merely returning to the Father God's embrace. They believe their essence simply returns to the source. The creative power of the Wood Dao is truly profound. In no time at all, the wounds of the gathered Wu warriors begin to knit back together and heal completely. With her brother by her side, the majestic Hutu immediately issues a command. The Witch Emperor has been born, and all tribes must come to Mount Buzhou to pay him their respects. Hearing this, Wu Tian's mouth twitches slightly. He remembers joking about being an emperor while chatting with Hutu's spirit during his cultivation, but it seems she took him quite literally. Well, if he must be the Witch Emperor, so be it. If the Yao have an emperor, the Wu need one too to maintain the balance. Hutu then tells the warriors to guard the hall's exterior. She announces she has urgent matters to discuss with the new Witch Emperor. Before her voice even fades, the ground rumbles and rises, carrying the two ancestral witches deep into the temple. Outside, the Wu warriors set off across mountains and seas, eager to summon the other tribes. Meanwhile, inside the Ancestral Witch Hall, the atmosphere shifts. Huta no longer maintains her regal facade. A joyful smile plays on her lips, and she looks utterly delighted. Her beautiful eyes sparkle with a light that never seems to dim. She keeps her gaze fixed on him, her smooth, small hand proactively taking his. She gives his hand a few playful squeezes, marveling at the reality of his physical form. She tells him that his transformed appearance is truly magnificent, claiming she has never seen anyone more handsome. This blunt praise actually makes the powerful Wu Tian blush. It seems the bold, fiery, and straightforward nature of the Wu clan starts right at the top with the Ancestral Witches. To change the subject, he asks about their sister, Xianming. Upon hearing the name, Huta's eyes fill with a playful resentment, and she shoots him a look that is somehow both annoyed and incredibly charming. She huffs at his immediate curiosity. She complains that he has barely arrived and is already asking after Sister Xianming, while she is standing right here. Wu Tian quickly tries to explain himself to calm her down. He reminds her that their relationship is unique, as their spirits were connected long before he took form. Xianming, however, didn't have that spiritual connection with him back then. Though they were companions in the early days, they never truly spoke. He adds that he was unfortunately asleep when she first took form, which is why he is concerned about her. Upon hearing those words, Huta's cheeks instantly flush a deep crimson. She quickly covers her mouth with her small hands, looking around guiltily as if she's been caught in a secret. She is terrified that someone might overhear them. To her, Wu Tian is being quite bold. After all, one shouldn't just casually speak about the intertwining of spirits in public. We must remember that Hutu is no longer the naive little girl she was eons ago. For cultivators, a connection of spirits is considered far more intimate than any physical bond. In this world, such a deep union is usually reserved only for true Dao companions. It all traces back to those billions of years ago, when Huta's spirit managed to resist corruption. Once her consciousness had solidified, she became intensely curious about Wu Tian's blood cocoon. Driven by that curiosity, she sent her spirit inside to investigate its mysteries. Deep within that massive cocoon, her spirit encountered his. In a state of beautiful confusion, their two spiritual forms became hopelessly entangled with one another. They remained in that state for countless ages, sharing a closeness that left Hutu completely smitten. This, of course, is why she was so overjoyed to finally see him take form. Sensing the softness of her hand near his face, a flicker of amusement dances in Wu Tian's eyes. He gazes at Hutu with an intensity that is impossible to ignore. Caught in that tender gaze, Hutu feels her heart skip a beat. She hurriedly pulls her hand back and turns away, suddenly finding it quite difficult to look him in the eye. She quickly changes the subject, explaining that the Yao Emperor has led an army to the North Sea. His goal is to subjugate the powerful great ancestor Kunping. Their sister Xianming took several great witches to intercept them, and they are likely still locked in battle. The Yao forces are expanding rapidly, already claiming the vast Star Sea. If the Yao are allowed to grow unchecked, the Wu clan will eventually be unable to withstand them. As she speaks of politics, Huta carries herself with a new, impressive grace. It seems she really has grown up. Wu Tian reaches out and takes her hand again, and together they ride a dragon of earth through the sprawling halls of the Ancestral Temple. He asks her to describe the current state of their people, and Huta begins to explain everything with remarkable clarity. To be honest, her leadership is exactly what they need. You see, most of the Wu clan are fierce warriors with plenty of muscle, but very little spiritual insight. Naturally, the role of the clan strategist fell solely to Hutu. She understands the clan's affairs as clearly as the lines on her own palm. She explains that the blood pool of the Father God originally birthed about 1 million warriors. Among them were 12 great witches, each capable of rivaling a great golden immortal. However, increasing their numbers has proven to be a difficult and slow process. Over billions of years, their population has only reached 8 million, scattered across the wilderness. But since the Yao established their court at the Sun Palace, things have changed. The Yao have been hunting their people relentlessly. Several of the 12 great witches have already fallen, leaving only a handful of leaders like Jiufeng and Hui. Currently, only 8 of the original high-ranking commanders remain, including Fengbo and Quafu. Meanwhile, more and more beings are choosing to side with the Yao court. She explains that the number of golden immortals is quite high, with scouts reporting hundreds of them. While she and Xianming can barely hold back the 2 Yao emperors, their high-end combat power is still far from enough. However, the greatest problem isn't the enemy, but the Panga blood pool left behind by the Father God. As she speaks, the massive earth dragon stops before a vast pool spanning thousands of miles, surrounded by jagged rocks and protruding fangs of stone. But the divine blood of Pangu within has dwindled to a thin layer, even exposing the bottom in some places. It is clear that this sacred source has finally run dry. A shadow of sorrow crosses Hutu's eyes as she notes that no new warriors have been born for thousands of years since the pool emptied. Our warriors possess powerful bodies, which makes conceiving offspring naturally even more difficult, not to mention that their bloodlines weaken with each generation. Under the constant siege of the Yao, the Wu clan's strength is fading daily. But then she brightens, looking at Wu Tian with eyes full of hope, glad he has finally emerged. He wonders what difference his arrival truly makes. At that, Hotu's face turns a mysterious shade of red as she lowers her head, fidgeting with the stones. In a voice as soft as a whisper, she explains that since his bloodline is far stronger than hers or Xuanming's, any children he fathers would be extraordinary. Even if their bloodline were slightly diluted, they would likely still be powerful great kings comparable to golden immortals, filling the gap in their elite forces. Hota looks up, her face completely flushed but her gaze steady and determined. She earnestly asks her brother to follow a certain historical example. She suggests that for the sake of their people, he should follow the path of the ancestors, specifically, the ancestor dragon. The ancestor dragon took female cultivators from 10,000 different races into his palace, resulting in 9 sons who were all unique. To be honest, it was quite a strategy. Because the mothers were different, the dragon's lineage spread everywhere. Wu Tian immediately shakes his head, insisting he isn't that kind of reckless man. He isn't the type to just accept anyone who comes his way without a second thought. Hutu, however, looks increasingly anxious for the future of their clan. She pleads with him to consider their survival, as this is the most effective way to boost their strength. Besides, she and Xianming have already agreed on this plan. Wu Tian gives Hutu a playful swat, making her jump. He chuckles, noting that the two of them were just talking to themselves since he wasn't even there. Now that he has arrived, the Wu clan will naturally follow his lead, which means the two sisters must listen to him instead. Furthermore, reproduction isn't that simple. With a body as powerful as his, producing heirs is even more difficult than she imagines. And besides, who exactly would he even start with? She lowers her head until her chin almost touches her chest, her ears turning a bright, unmistakable crimson beneath the soft veil of her hair. Her voice drops to a faint, trembling whisper, barely audible even in the stillness of the cavern. It is a moment of profound vulnerability for the powerful goddess. She explains that the father god's bloodline is too noble to be shared with outsiders, suggesting that she and her sister are the only suitable choices. Even though Hudu has led the Wu clan for countless years, her heart races as she speaks these words, her beautiful face flushed with a deep red glow, looking as radiant as if she were intoxicated. But just then, a voice calls out from the distance, asking what a certain object is. Huda snaps out of her trance and looks up, her face still burning. She realizes that Wu Tian is no longer beside her on the Earth Dragon. Glancing around, she spots him hundreds of feet away, standing on a jagged reef within the Pango blood pool. He is leaning over, examining a blood-stained banner rising from the water. Hutu lets out a long sigh of relief, though her mind remains a tangled mess of nerves. She wonders if her brother heard a single word she said. With a quick step, she joins him on the reef, where he begins to describe the artifact he found. He identifies it as the heaven-shaking divine banner, which uses blood energy to control malevolent qi. He notes that finding only 2 in the entire pool makes them rather ineffective. He recalls there should be 12 banners, not 2. Then he realizes his mistake. The 12 banners are kept in the Panga temple, which has not yet appeared in this era. This is the ancestral house, and the Panga temple is still hidden. He remembers that the temple contains another Panga bloodstone, which would solve Hutu's worries instantly. He decides not to mention it just yet, wanting to surprise his sisters when the temple is finally found. Suddenly, his blood energy surges violently. A terrifying pressure radiates from him, causing Huda to look at him with immediate concern, asking what is wrong. He quickly assures her he is fine. He explains that he rushed his transformation out of worry when he sensed she was in danger, which has left his internal energy somewhat unstable. A bit of rest should fix it. Hutu insists he rest immediately while she stands guard. With a wave of her hand, she uses the laws of Earth to manifest a small, exquisite palace for him. Unable to refuse her kindness, he enters the small structure and sits cross-legged, beginning to circulate the 9 revolutions' mysterious art. He wasn't lying. It is a minor issue. After transforming, he simply needs time to harmonize his blood energy and spiritual power. To be honest, it's a perfect time for a break. He also plans to refine the spear he obtained from the chaos. We see his current state, a Pangu origin body, reaching the peak of the Great Luo realm, with his cultivation at the 6th revolution. His mastery over the laws is growing. Space at 35%, time at 34%, and the law of poison at 30%. He is becoming a force to be reckoned with. His mastery continues to expand. The law of wind stands at 32%, lightning at 31%, electricity at 32%, and the law of wood at 30%. Meanwhile, his control over metal, water, and fire has each reached the solid threshold of 30%, with fire slightly ahead at 31%. We see that among the 49 innate restrictions of a chaos-grade treasure, he has already refined 5. Having mastered the 6th revolution of the 9 revolutions' mysterious art, his body has become a glazed treasure that even mid-grade spiritual artifacts cannot harm in the slightest. As he summons the Chaos Bell, millions of auspicious rays and countless beams of treasure light emerge, revealing its mysterious yellow hue. The bell emits a brilliant divine glow, rotating around him as his divine sense, backed by immense power, begins to break through the restrictions. of the Chaos Bell. He clears 5, 10, 20, 30, and finally 42 chains of restrictions, carving his own spiritual mark upon them. It seems the great East Emperor spent millions of years refining these final techniques only to hand them to him on a silver platter. To refine such a treasure, one must find billions of key nodes within the innate restriction chains and use divine sense to slowly wear them down with painstaking effort until those nodes are erased and replaced with one's own consciousness. For our protagonist, however, the process is remarkably simple. He only needs to pour his own divine sense into the chains already weakened by his predecessor. For that, he really should thank the Great East Emperor. It is a pity, though, that while the final 7 restriction chains have had their key nodes worn away by the great Tao, his divine sense cannot yet fully bind to them. Even if he forces a temporary connection, it slowly dissipates after a short while. The process still takes a few days, but as he repeatedly refines the Chaos Bell, he finds it increasingly easy to handle, now able to unleash 80% of its true power. With a flash of divine light from his brow, the bell vanishes, sinking deep into his consciousness. When he opens his eyes, a sharp divine light flickers within them. He exhales a long breath and hears Huda's voice just a few feet behind him. Strangely enough, he realized he had no guard up against her at all. She greets him warmly, relieved to see him recovered, and mentions that the warriors have gathered at the Ancestral house. She encourages him to see them, noting with a look of immense pride how brave and powerful they have become. As the palace Hutu created slowly dissolves, we see a line of female Wu clan members waiting outside. At their head is a woman dressed in animal skins, with crimson hair and a wild aura, the Great Witch, Jufeng. Having reached the rank of Great Witch, she can now freely maintain a human size. Controlling her body size is a sign of returning to her true essence, yet the usually rebellious Jufeng is now as quiet as a lamb. In her hands, she carries a wooden tray holding a yellow robe woven from dragon scales and phoenix feathers. Curiously, this garment is a high-grade Hotian spiritual treasure. Lord Wutian, it is time to change, Jufeng says as she steps forward, offering to serve him. This is something the proud Great Witch would never normally do, yet before our protagonist, she is more than willing. Unfortunately, she won't get her wish. Hota stops her halfway and takes the yellow robe with a light laugh, noting that the clan's warriors don't actually know how to craft such treasures. To be honest, they had to force a captured member of the demon clan to refine it for them. As the refining process completes, Jiofeng feels a surge of resentment, yet she can't help but gain profound insights from his physical presence. In an instant, she understands how to circulate the 9 revolutions' mysterious art with even greater fluidity than before. For those who cultivate physical strength, his body is like a sacred relic. By observing it closely, one could easily master various body refining techniques. Jufeng gazes greedily at his form as if admiring a masterpiece, her expression shifting into something quite close to obsession. Behind her, the other female members of the Wu clan are no different. As they watch him, their breathing becomes heavy and hurried. It is a rather strange sight, to say the least. Hutu, with a playful glint in her eyes, tells him it's time to go so the warriors aren't kept waiting. With a flick of her power, the robe dons itself. The moment his physique is hidden beneath the yellow fabric, Jiofeng and the witches behind her let out a collective sigh of disappointment. Though each sigh is quiet, together they are impossible to ignore. Our protagonist is left speechless, feeling strangely as though he's been taken advantage of. He doesn't dwell on it, however. Activating the law of space, he opens a portal and steps through the void in a single stride. He arrives outside the Ancestral house, where a vast and vigorous blood chi pressure erupts, the unmistakable aura of a true descendant of Pangu. This presence blankets Mount Bujo, startling the Wu clan members gathered around the palace. They rise one after another, turning toward the Ancestral house. Giant figures begin to stand up. Some are dozens of feet tall, others hundreds, and some even reach thousands of feet into the sky. Like a forest of small mountains, millions have gathered here. These massive figures occupy the land for dozens of miles in every direction. It is a pity that Xianming is still away on a campaign in the North Sea, but at that moment, Wutian and Jufeng emerge from the portal. The gathered Wu clan members grow excited. They had sensed that powerful aura before, but seeing the Ancestral lady by his side confirms everything. There is no doubt now, this must be the great emperor of the Wu. Suddenly, a sea of massive figures begins to surge forward to catch a glimpse of him. As Wutian looks upon their respectful gazes and feels the same bloodline flowing through their veins, he feels a sudden surge of pride and emotion. These are the brave sons of his clan, and seeing them crowd forward to meet him, he immediately activates the 9 revolutions' mysterious art. His blood chi erupts like a soaring dragon as he manifests his law body, his form expanding rapidly against the wind, hundreds of feet, then thousands. He grows to 10,000, then 100,000, until finally, a giant reaching 500,000 feet tall stands upon Mount Bujo. This staggering height completely dwarfs almost every sacred mountain in the prehistoric world, leaving the Wu clan staring up in absolute awe. Their eyes instantly fill with a wild, fanatical devotion. Only the great emperor could possess such a magnificent and terrifying physical form. To be honest, the Wu clan has always been simple. They believe that the larger the body, the greater the strength. It's a straightforward philosophy. Even the ancestral witches cannot compare to this awe-inspiring stature. Emperor, Emperor. Their rhythmic shouts begin to echo across the land. The sound swells into a deafening roar that nearly pierces the 9 heavens. And in that moment, the system presents him with a new choice. The first option is to claim the Chaos Bead and take absolute control of Mount Bouge. As he considers the possibilities, a golden light flashes in his eyes. He knows he cannot choose the second option, which offers ancestral witch essence blood. After all, he already possesses plenty of his own. In fact, any blood he produced himself would likely be purer than the system's reward, making that particular choice quite redundant. The first option is also out of the question. According to Hutu, the balance of power has shifted significantly in this timeline. The Demon Clan currently holds the advantage, and a reckless attack on the Sun Palace would likely lead to a very bitter outcome. Furthermore, great powers like Hongjun and the 3 Pure Ones are watching the Heavenly Tao, hoping to lead both clans toward mutual destruction. Even with the power of the 10 laws, he cannot risk his sisters or his people falling into a trap, even if an attack seemed tempting. If he were to lead the Wu clan to ruin, the ending would be no different from his past life. He decides it is better to play it safe for now and ignore any thoughts of a quick victory. Our protagonist speaks, his voice booming across the prehistoric wilderness as he declares that he, Wu Tian, is formed from the essence blood of the father god, Pangu. Since they have honored him as the great emperor, he issues a decree. The bloodline of the Wu clan is noble and represents the true orthodoxy of heaven and earth. He commands that from this day forward, the Wu shall not fight with other spirits, but instead return to Mount Buzhou, the very spine of Father Pangu, to guard the world. They are to remain there unless the world itself faces destruction. As his command goes out, bolstered by immense magical power, it instantly reaches every corner of the realm. The great powers of the prehistoric world are thrown into an uproar. At Kunlun, the hearts of the 3 Pure Ones tremble so violently they are unable to continue their meditation. In the west, Jane and Zhuanti are busy chanting Buddhist sutras, but even their golden light flickers and fades as their divine manifestations are disrupted by the shock. Meanwhile, on their journey back with the army, Emperors Dijuan and Tai look through the void toward Mount Buzhou, seeing the giant who now stands 500,000 feet tall. Their eyes grow dark with suspicion as they wonder what game the Wu clan is playing. Only an old Taoist on Mount Yujing remains seemingly unmoved by the news. To be perfectly honest, he is simply at a critical moment in his cultivation and didn't hear the voice at all. Back at the Ancestral Hall, 8 million Wu giants are cheering. They shout the name of their emperor, looking up at Wu Tian as he towers into the clouds. Their eyes are filled with a fanatical devotion that borders on madness. None of them find this sudden change in destiny strange. The Wu clan is simple and honest, and since they accepted Wu Tian as emperor, they follow his word without question. They believe that he, who inherited the purest blood of the Father God, would never harm them. Besides, they tell themselves it is merely a change of scenery. Mount Buzhou connects the heavens and the earth, spanning 33 layers of the sky with a peak that nearly touches the primal chaos. Its height is truly beyond measure. The mountain's width is so vast that even a great golden immortal would need several hundred years just to travel in a complete circle around its base. In the past, other cultivators had begun to occupy the surrounding lands, and as they moved toward Kunlun, that mountain began to gain a reputation as the world's greatest peak. Hutu immediately sends a telepathic message, asking her brother why he gave such an order. She reminds him that the lingering pressure of Father Pangu on the mountain is immense. That divine pressure is difficult for anyone but the most powerful to endure, and while the Wu have strong bodies, living on Mount Buzhou will be an agonizing struggle. Furthermore, she points out that the lands they currently hold were won through years of war by her and her sisters, and now they are simply giving them away. Although Hutu's soul is somewhat fragile, she is still capable of divine communication. Wu Tian simply smiles and sends a calm reply back to her. Wu Tian tells his sister not to worry, assuring her that he has everything under control. At that moment, the reward for completing his third task, taking charge of Mount Buzhou, is granted. A strange sense of connection fills his mind, and suddenly, he understands every inch of this mountain that stretches billions of miles into the sky. It is truly a divine treasure trove. We see that the mountain is overflowing with spiritual roots, fruits, rare metals, and ores. It is a land of unimaginable wealth that has remained largely untouched until now. While powerful cultivators occasionally visit to pay their respects and scavenge for spiritual fruits, the lingering pressure of Father Pangu makes it impossible for them to stay for long. Because of this, the resources of Mount Buzhou are as abundant as if the land had never been touched by civilization. Furthermore, the mountain is teeming with vast herds of wild beasts. These creatures will provide more than enough food for the Wu clan. Interestingly, Pangu's divine pressure only affects cultivators, leaving the ordinary animals of the mountain completely undisturbed. As the new master of Mount Buzhou, Wu Tian can now control that ancient pressure. He realizes that Hutu's concerns, while valid for anyone else, are simply not an issue for him. He has the power to shield the children of the Wu clan, ensuring that the crushing weight of Father Pangu's aura never touches their shoulders. Suddenly, a voice resonates across the prehistoric world. High above the clouds, an old Taoist on a meditation mat declares himself the great ancestor, Hongjun, the supreme teacher of the heavens. Having achieved sainthood, he announces he will preach the Tao at the Zixiao Palace. Anyone with the fate to reach the 33rd layer of heaven is invited to listen. As the saint emerges, an infinite divine pressure sweeps across the world, forcing every living soul in the prehistoric realm to fall to their knees in submission. At Kunlun, the three pure ones, the Queen Mother, and even Emperors Dijuan and Tai are pressed to the ground, staring at the sky in utter disbelief. They marvel at the terrifying power of a saint, which can render the world helpless with pressure alone. Meanwhile, Wu Tian, still standing 500,000 feet tall, feels the weight first. His shoulders sink and his head bows slightly under the sudden burden. However, he soon looks up, his blood boiling with power as his massive body begins to expand even further. His eyes are filled with a defiant, unyielding light. With his physical strength reaching a level that is truly unmatched in this world, he prepares to resist the saint's might. Although the immense pressure makes his giant frame tremble slightly, he refuses to fall. He reminds himself that the Wu clan stands tall between heaven and earth. They do not bow to the heavens or the earth, for the only one worthy of their worship is Father Pangu. Seeing his clansmen beginning to buckle under the saint's aura, including his sister Hutu, Wu Tian immediately calls upon the lingering pressure of Pangu within Mount Buzhou to shield his people. By using one divine pressure to counter the other, he creates a protective barrier. Instantly, the members of the Wu clan feel the crushing weight lift from their bodies, while the others are merely confused by the sudden relief. Huda looks up at her brother with an expression of pure awe, marveling at the incredible power he possesses. Since he can even control the lingering pressure of Father Pangu, it seems moving the clan back to Mount Buzhou won't be an issue at all, and so, under the leadership of their shaman emperor, the Wu clan refuses to bow to the saint, a fact that naturally doesn't escape Hongjun's notice. From high in the 33rd heaven, Hongjun realizes with a start that the heavenly secrets have shifted, yet he chooses to say nothing for now. To be honest, focusing on his own enlightenment is the priority. Soon, that overwhelming divine pressure begins to slowly dissipate. Only the countless living beings who were just praying know that the experience was no illusion, as streaks of red light suddenly pierce the sky. Many great powers in the prehistoric world have been stuck at the great golden immortal realm for far too long, and now that the first saint since ancient times has emerged, no one wants to miss such a supreme opportunity. Countless cultivators begin using their escape techniques, racing toward the 33rd heaven. In a frantic scramble for the saint's teachings, Hutu calls out to her brother, and since they are almost of one mind, Wu Tian understands her meaning immediately. He announces that since a saint has appeared, he and Hutu will go to investigate. Meanwhile, the rest of the clan, led by the great shamans, will stay at Mount Buzhou to find a suitable place to rebuild their tribe. He assigns Hui to coordinate the efforts, and the Wu clan members respond with a thunderous shout of obedience. The other great shamans look at Hui with envy, feeling that receiving the emperor's favor is the greatest possible glory. Wu Tian's massive form then shrinks back to his original size. Interestingly, his shaman emperor robes remain perfectly intact despite the transformation. He then reaches out his large hand and pulls Huda close. With a single step, a spatial gate appears before them. Using the laws of space for travel is, quite frankly, the most efficient way to move. In just one stride, they cross billions of miles and bypass several layers of heaven. This is a level of speed that no one in the prehistoric world can match. Even the ancestor Kuanpeng, who is famous for his speed, is left far behind in the dust. With another step, several more layers of heaven pass as the surrounding space constantly shifts. Huta's face turns a soft shade of red as she clings tightly to Wu Tian's waist, her gaze never wavering from him for even a second. Feeling her brother's presence so close, she finds herself remembering the moment their souls intertwined 10,000 years ago. She feels a wave of shyness, yet it is exceptionally beautiful to her. Unfortunately, this private time ends after only a few months. His mastery over space is truly staggering. While a normal golden immortal would spend centuries traveling this distance, for Wu Tian, it takes mere months. Most of that time is actually spent searching the 33rd heaven for the Zixiao Palace. As for the violent winds, thunder, and chaotic currents of the high heavens, things that could easily destroy a great golden immortal, these dangers pose no threat to a master of space. As they finally step onto the cloud platform outside Zixiao Palace, we see that not even a single hair on their heads is out of place. Not a single hair is out of place on the man, who wears a yellow robe of dragon scales and phoenix feathers, his handsome face radiating majesty. He carries an undeniable air of dominance. Hutu remarks that they seem to be the first to arrive, noting that since the gates are closed, they must wait outside. Hearing this, Wu Tian simply shakes his head. Passive waiting has never been his style, so he takes Hutu's small hand and leads her straight toward the palace gates. However, before they can reach them, a young female Taoist attendant in flowing robes steps forward to block their path. She politely asks the Taoist brother to wait outside until the gates officially open. The girl looks no more than 16 or 17, yet she possesses incredible courage. Her cultivation is merely at the Tai Golden Immortal realm. He actually had the audacity to try to stand directly in their way. He wonders if she was truly formed from the primal chaos. Yaoqi looks at him with utter disbelief, and suddenly, her small face turns bright red. She wonders how this man dares to be so rude. Does he not fear her teacher's wrath? She even wonders if this is the teasing she has heard of. Yaoqi has never left the palace, and these are the first outsiders she has ever met. Unfortunately, what happens next isn't quite what she imagined, telling her to move aside. Wu Tian flicks a finger. With just a tiny fraction of his physical strength, Yaoqi is sent flying like a cannonball. Seeing this, the other attendant, Hao Yan, immediately lowers his head and hides behind his hair, chanting, "You can't see me," under his breath. Huta mutters a soft protest about her brother bullying a little girl. But before they can take another step, Yaoqi flies back. She blocks their path once more, spreading her arms wide with a look of pure defiance in her eyes. Despite the red finger mark on her forehead, she stubbornly insists that without their teacher's summons, no one may enter the Zixiao Palace. Wu Tian lets out a soft laugh, a hint of genuine interest flashing in his eyes as he asks if she knows who he is. When she says no, he asks if she knows who it was that spoke to the entire prehistoric world before her teacher achieved sainthood. Yaoqi answers with total confidence, naming the Panga successor, Shaman Emperor Wu Tian. He then suggests she think carefully about whether their voices sound similar. Yaoqi realizes the truth instantly. Looking at the ancestral shaman Hutu by his side, she understands that the man before her is indeed the Shaman Emperor. To be honest, anyone who can project their voice across the entire world and lead the giant Wu clan, someone her teacher spoke of even during secluded meditation, is undoubtedly a peerless powerhouse. In an instant, Yaoqi's legs begin to tremble uncontrollably beneath her robes, yet the little girl remains stubborn, insisting that even a shaman emperor must show respect. She argues that upon entering a saint's domain, one must honor the saint. A cold glint flashes in Wu Tian's eyes for a moment, though it vanishes just as quickly. He hasn't said he won't respect the saint, but notes that since the Tao ancestor hasn't stopped their commotion, it must be a sign of silent permission. We see Yaoqi hesitate, her face filled with uncertainty, until Wu Tian threatens to strip her Taoist robes and give her a lesson if she doesn't move. Hearing this, the poor girl panics, clutching her clothes and jumping back in a hurry, which, to be honest, is a perfectly reasonable reaction to such a threat. Hutu, standing beside him, gives him a sharp pinch, her eyes flashing with a hint of jealousy as she asks how he could say such things. Wu Tian simply laughs it off as a joke and takes Hutu's small hand, heading for the gates while Yaoqi steps aside. Meanwhile, Hao Yan leans in to whisper. He assures his fellow attendant that the shaman emperor surely won't be able to push open the gates closed by their master. Yaoqi simply rolls her eyes. She wonders why he didn't speak up when she was blocking the path. Still, as she watches Wu Tian's handsome profile, her face turns a shade redder. Hao Yan continues his lecture, claiming the saint's power is beyond mortal reach and that even a great golden immortal couldn't budge these doors. But before he can finish, a heavy grinding sound echoes through the air as the Zixiao Palace gates, reinforced by Hongjuan's magic, begin to groan. With nothing but his bare hands, Wu Tian forces the massive gates open, leaving Hao Yan and Yaoqi standing there with their mouths hanging wide open. He frowns slightly and takes a breath, finding the saint's casual barrier surprisingly sturdy. Difficult to move, yes, but certainly not impossible for him. After pushing the doors wide, he urges Hutu to enter first before following her inside, and together they finally step into the heart of Zixiao Palace. With a heavy thud, the gates swing shut behind them, the magical flow restoring itself as if nothing had happened. The saint's domain is truly extraordinary. Inside, every surface is carved with Taoist patterns, and the air itself is thick with authority as countless runes flicker in and out of existence. One could surely gain immense power just by staying here, but Wu Tian's attention is fixed on a row of 6 ordinary-looking meditation mats at the front. The 6 seats of sainthood are right there, and that is exactly why he came. Without a moment's hesitation, he leads Huta forward to claim 2. The mats themselves look quite plain, and while Huta doesn't sense anything special about them, she looks around the hall with wide-eyed curiosity. She finds the surrounding runes incredibly complex and difficult to grasp, for even though she possesses a soul, her strength still lies in her shaman physique. We see that her soul's realm is fundamentally unbalanced, appearing unusually weak as if from a natural deficiency, which makes sense, given that Pangu's soul was inherited by the Sanqing. The shaman tribe inherited only his physical bloodline, so even if a soul is condensed, it remains incredibly fragile. With several hundred years still to wait, Wu Tian decides not to waste a single moment. He closes his eyes and begins to refine the Chaos Pearl, a reward from the system, within the sea of his consciousness. To be honest, the system's generosity is quite staggering. It isn't every day one gets their hands on a primordial treasure. Inside his mind, the Chaos Pearl glows with a hazy, gray light that seems to contain everything and nothing at once. Focusing his mind, he can see a vast world within it, as expansive as the universe itself, where flowing light composed of countless runes swirls to reveal a myriad of divine intentions. This is the true essence of the Chaos Pearl. It is a treasure of unimaginable depth. Through it, he can harness the power of an entire world, a supreme force that even a great golden immortal has no right to wield. It is a terrifying advantage, to say the least. In the future, any primordial spiritual roots he finds can be nurtured inside, hidden even from the prying eyes of the heavenly Tao. Usually, magical treasures with fewer than 36 seals are classified as spirit treasures. Those with more than 36 are considered supreme treasures, and the difference between primordial and acquired lies in the nature of the eternal spiritual light contained within them. If the restrictive chains are formed from primordial eternal light, the item is a primordial treasure. He understands these laws well as he probes the depths of the pearl's power. Otherwise, it is merely an acquired treasure. Generally speaking, the power of a primordial treasure far surpasses the acquired ones, though there are always a few notable exceptions to the rule. Laozi's pagoda of heaven and earth, for instance, can rival primordial treasures. However, refining the primordial restrictive chains on this Chaos Pearl proves to be an arduous task. Unlike treasures found in the chaos where predecessors might have helped, this requires his own patient effort, wearing down the nodes of the chains bit by bit with his divine sense. Hundreds of years pass in what feels like a heartbeat, and yet he has only managed to refine 2 of the restrictions. There is, of course, a much faster way to proceed. He could use merit to assist the refining process, but since they are currently in someone else's Taoist temple, he decides against doing anything so conspicuous. After centuries of waiting, he finally senses people approaching outside. Hearing the growing commotion, Wu Tian opens his eyes only to find that Hutu has fallen fast asleep right on his lap. He gently caresses her face and taps her shoulder to wake her. As Hutu opens her beautiful eyes, she looks utterly relaxed and heavy with sleep, a rare moment of peace in this sacred hall. She sleepily asks if the saint has arrived, but Wu Tian explains that it's just the others finally reaching the gates. Before he can even finish his sentence, the heavy doors of Zhixiao Palace swing open once more. A Taoist with a hooked nose appears. It is Kuanpeng, the master of the northern dark ocean, radiating a sharp, golden aura. The sound of metal clashing rings out as someone realizes others arrived before him. Turning his gaze, Kuanpeng sees the 4 remaining prayer mats on the high platform. Golden light flashes in Kuanpeng's eyes as he summons a whirlwind to fly forward. But suddenly, a divine radiance erupts from the Chaos Bell. With a heavy resonance, Kuanpeng slams directly into the barrier of the Chaos Bell, which has descended to shield the 4 remaining mats. The protective light spreads out, radiating an infinite and ancient power. It is a treasure of immense significance. Kuanpeng argues that in a saint's dojo, no one should act as the master, but before his voice fades, 3 streaks of light flash through the open doors. The newcomers possess an extraordinary aura. They are the Sanqing of Kunlun Mountain, with the pagoda of heaven and earth hovering above them. They appear incredibly noble, one with white hair like an elder, one in black robes like a middle-aged man, and one carrying a sword like a youth. These are the Taoists Laozi, Yuanshi, and Tongtian. They immediately lock their gaze onto the 4 mats protected by the Chaos Bell's light. They understand perfectly well that in a saint's dojo, these prayer mats represent a profound destiny that cannot be ignored. We see a woman of peerless beauty and elegance arrive, her grace rivaling even our own Hutu, a truly indescribable sight. She is Nuwa, accompanied by Fushi, both innate deities born of Mount Buzhou. Soon after, 2 more streaks of light descend into the hall. One has a red beard and robes, likely the ancestor Hongyun, while the other wears a Taoist robe with massive sleeves, the great immortal Jinyuan. As those destined for the mats appear one by one, and Zhixiao Palace fills with people, Kuanpeng's eyes flash with a sharp, golden light. He immediately tries to stir the crowd, claiming it is far too overbearing for only 2 people to occupy all the opportunities in the palace. He asks the Sanqing to judge the fairness of 2 people claiming 6 mats, but the elder Sanqing, having cultivated for eons, remains silent. The youthful Tongtian steps forward instead, asking if the man before them is the shaman emperor and a true successor of Pangu. Wu Tian replies nonchalantly that he is. Hearing this, the eyes of the Sanqing fill with a newfound sense of warmth and connection. They hadn't expected the shaman tribe, who inherit the father god's bloodline, to produce such a figure, a natural-born ruler with an imposing aura. The Sanqing usually look down on shamans who only refine the body and ignore the Tao, but Wu Tian is clearly a different matter entirely. He has cultivated both his spirit and life force to a state of perfect balance, reaching the great zenith of the Daoyuo realm, a feat that matches even the three brothers. In fact, his Panga bloodline is even purer than that of the Sanqing, who only inherited the father god's spirit, causing their respect for him to grow instantly. If the Sanqing had only recently taken form, they might have invited him to travel together. Unfortunately, he is now the shaman emperor, leading his entire tribe. As the shaman tribe holds the supreme destiny of this era, the Sanqing maintain a respectful distance, though the middle-aged Yuanshi cannot help but notice the chaos bell. Seeing the bell hovering over the mats, Yuanshi asks how this treasure, usually held by the demon emperor, ended up here. Wu Tian simply offers a calm smile. He explains that the chaos bell was originally a fragment of the father god's axe, and thus, it is only natural that he should be the one to wield it. He claims the treasure chose its true master now that he has emerged, a statement that leaves the crowd in a state of collective, speechless disbelief. To suggest a treasure held by Dongwang Tai for eons would simply switch sides sounds like nonsense, yet Yuanshi finds himself chuckling in agreement. Yuanshi remarks that the shaman emperor is right. Treasures of the father god belong to the true Panga lineage, not to those born of mere eggs or fur. It seems Yuanshi has long been annoyed by Dongwang Tai using the chaos bell to dominate the great desolation, and seeing it taken brings him a certain satisfaction. He clearly thinks Wu Tian did a magnificent job, but a soft cough from the elder Laozi, who strokes his long beard, quickly brings Yuanshi back to silence. It is clear that Laozi is the leader of the three. He speaks up, noting that the shaman emperor does not seem like a man who would be needlessly overbearing. He asks if they might have a few mats to rest their weary bodies after centuries of travel, to which Wu Tian responds with a knowing, subtle smile. He explains that while he would normally give up an ordinary seat, these mats are of immense importance and cannot be surrendered so easily. He tells them the truth. These are the seats of the saints, and sitting here guarantees a path to divinity. He and his sister are simply guarding them for now. He wishes to form a karmic bond with the future saints, a revelation that sends a shockwave of realization through everyone present in the hall. In the back hall of Zixiao Palace, the meditating Hongjun feels his heart skip a beat as he realizes this shaman emperor is a variable he never expected. Hongjun wonders how the boy could possibly know about the saintly positions, while the other cultivators, including Nuwa, now stare at the mats with burning desire. However, the crowd soon realizes the weight of the situation. Keeping such a secret would have been a favor, but speaking it aloud creates a massive karmic debt. To accept a seat that leads to sainthood from another's hand is a burden of fate so heavy that few would ever be able to truly repay it. Usually, one might clear such a debt by plotting to eliminate the creditor, but Wu Tian is far too confident for that. He is the one who does the calculating, not the other way around. As long as he remains standing, this karmic bond remains a profitable investment, leading the ancestor Kunpeng to speak up immediately, addressing him as a fellow Taoist. Kunpeng claims that as the third to arrive at Zixiao Palace, one of these sacred mats should rightfully be his, but Yuanshi cannot help but bark out a sharp, disdainful retort. He scoffs that those born of eggs have no right to stand among them, turning instead to Wu Tian to suggest that as fellow Panga descendants, they should look out for one another. Yuanshi claims to feel an instant kinship and asks if he might sit beside Wu Tian to listen to the lecture, an idea that, quite frankly, is rather amusing to witness. It is truly a rare sight to see the usually arrogant Yuanshi acting so flattering, and Nuwa, watching this unfold, realizes things are taking a turn for the worse. She worries that if they all start claiming family ties, there won't be a seat left for her, so she speaks up with a voice as clear and sweet as a silver bell. Addressing Hutu, she notes they are both spirits of Mount Buzhou and the only two women in the palace, asking if she might be allowed a mat to sit upon. Hutu offers a gentle smile, but shakes her head, her eyes turning toward Wu Tian as she explains that all such matters are decided by her elder brother. Deep down, Hutu is filled with pride for her brother's incredible foresight, marveling that he could even predict the divine significance of these simple mats. Seeing the great powers of the Great Desolation acting so humble before them is a refreshing change of pace, while Nuwa turns her gaze toward Wu Tian to reconsider him. Upon closer inspection, she finds him to be quite striking, eyes like stars and an aura of undeniable authority that truly befits a ruler of his stature. She finds herself thinking he is remarkably handsome for a shaman emperor, and she asks him directly what his thoughts are on her request for a seat. Wu Tian counters with a question of his own, asking Nuwa if she has joined the demon tribe yet, which leaves her companion Fushi looking rather awkward. Fushi has already secretly allied himself with the demon emperors and was planning to persuade his sister to join him, especially given her unique creative powers. He knows that if her abilities were used to forge spiritual treasures for the demons, their power would skyrocket, a fact Wu Tian is likely well aware of. Wu Tian understands the brewing conflict between the shamans and demons perfectly, and he waits for an answer without needing to say much more. He tells her that if she were a demon, he naturally couldn't give her a seat, but since she isn't, sitting together is perfectly fine and quite pleasant, given her beauty. At these words, a faint blush creeps across Nuwa's exquisite face, as she wonders if the shaman emperor is being a bit too bold in such a sacred place. Beside her, Fushi glares at Wu Tian with clear irritation, though he finds himself unable to find the right words to intervene in the conversation. Fushi can only seethe in silence, while beside him, Hota finds herself pouting unconsciously, her beautiful eyes glaring at Wu Tian with a hint of hidden annoyance. She thinks her elder brother is being far too flirtatious with everyone he meets, but Wu Tian simply smiles, knowing that even a joke must follow certain rules. After all, our shaman emperor prides himself on being fair, and he isn't about to hand over a sacred mat quite so easily, causing Nuwa's heart to sink instantly. The joy she felt moments ago turns to sharp disappointment. She truly thought the seat was within her grasp, but Wu Tian seems to enjoy playing with people's expectations. He claims he only wishes to form a good karmic bond with a future saint, but Laozi, being as sharp as ever, hears the unspoken message beneath those words. Recognizing the hidden price, Laozi speaks up, offering Wu Tian a flask of his newly refined 9 Revolution golden pills for his esteemed appraisal. Nuwa watches this with a faint smile, though she doesn't say a word. Her expression clearly suggests that for a man like Wu Tian, this old fellow isn't offering nearly enough. It seems a single flask of pills isn't going to buy a seat of such divine importance, and seeing Laozi take the lead, Yuanshi quickly decides to follow suit. He reaches into his sleeve and produces the Dragon Tiger seal, a Hotian spiritual treasure that he describes as one of his finest works of craftsmanship. He humbly asks Wu Tian to offer some guidance on this high-grade treasure, while Tong Tian, watching his 2 brothers, begins to frown in deep thought. Unlike his brothers who focus on alchemy or forging, Tong Tian is devoted solely to the Tao of the sword, so he grits his teeth and summons a brilliant green blade. He presents the Qingping sword, a high-grade Xiantian spiritual treasure, wondering if it might be worthy of the shaman emperor's discerning gaze. The moment the sword appears, Laozi and Yuanshi are internally cursing Tong Tian for being a fool who has just single-handedly driven up the market price. They had hoped to get away with simple pills or forged trinkets, but Tong Tian's Xiantian treasure is on a completely different level of value. Meanwhile, the ancestor Kuanping is scratching his head in a panic, realizing that the bitter cold of the North Sea has left him with very few treasures to offer. His only real weapon is the mysterious ice bow, which took him tens of millions of years to craft from essence ice, and he is far too stingy to part with it. He wonders if he should offer dragon tendons or dragon meat instead, and then it hits him. He actually has plenty of dragon tendons to spare. Since Kuanping often hunts dragons in the North Sea for food, he has collected quite a large stash of tendons over the years, and he acts on the idea immediately. He pulls thousands of dragon tendons from his sleeve, offering them to Wu Tian as a humble apology for his earlier rudeness, hoping this small gift will suffice. As the blood-stained tendons are revealed, everyone in the palace stares at Kuanping in speechless disbelief, while the virtuous Xinyuanzi can only look on in shock. We see Xinyuanzi step forward, flipping his sleeve to reveal a tray holding 10 translucent ginseng fruits that shimmer like crystal dolls. He offers them as a congratulatory gift for Wu Tian's return, calling them grass-returning pills and asking the emperor to accept them, a polite gesture, to be sure. None of these figures dare to mention the sacred mat directly. Instead, they invent clever excuses, ranging from seeking alchemy appraisals to asking for guidance. Some claim to be apologizing while others offer congratulations, proving that none of them are simple-minded, except perhaps for the straightforward Tong Tian. In the back hall, even the great ancestor Han Jun is too distracted to meditate, his hand gripping his beard so tightly he accidentally pulls out a few hairs. He is understandably annoyed that Wu Tian is turning a saint's seat into a business transaction, yet since no one has broken any rules, he cannot intervene. He can only listen as Wu Tian maintains the facade of simply wanting to form. It is a masterful performance, really. Suddenly, a dazzling array of treasures appears, divine sabers, yin-yang orbs, and spirit spears, each one more radiant than the last. Nuwa steps forward, offering these as a gift for Wu Tian's return to Mount Buzhou, asking with a smile if her humble tribute is worthy of his notice. The other great powers in the palace fall silent, looking at Nuwa with eyes full of resentment. She is, without a doubt, the wealthiest woman in the prehistoric world. As the mistress of the universe painting, even the ordinary treasures she collects are superior to what most experts could ever hope to find. Wu Tian chuckles with an air of casual indifference, telling Nuwa that he has never been one to care for such worldly, material possessions. Yet, before his voice even fades, he waves his hand and uses the laws of space to open a rift, instantly swallowing all 12 of Nuwa's spiritual treasures. This display of divine power is so effortless it rivals the best techniques of Xinyuanzi, leaving the crowd in the Zixiao Palace completely stunned. The onlookers can only twitch their lips in disbelief at Wu Tian's unpredictable behavior, and even Hutu cannot help but whisper a small complaint. She teases her brother about his thick skin, but Wu Tian, having cultivated his spirit to such a high degree, sees absolutely no problem with his actions. With a slight tremor in the void, a sacred mat drifts toward him, and he warmly invites Sister Nuwa to come and take her seat beside him. He claims he has never met anyone as generous as her, switching from fellow Taoist to sister the moment the treasures were safely in his pocket. Nuwa walks forward with her head held high, looking quite proud of herself. With a fortune as vast as hers, she hardly misses the treasures she just gave away. We see that while Wu Tian barely glances at the treasures, the ancestor Kunpeng watches with envy in his eyes, immediately channeling his profound law of wind. With a sudden blast, he propels himself 90,000 miles in an instant, hoping to force his way onto a sacred mat, daring Wu Tian to try and kick him off. This wind technique is truly extraordinary, and before anyone in the palace can even react, Kunpeng has already reached the edge of the mat. But in that moment, a golden light flashes in Wu Tian's eyes as he activates his own mastery over the law of wind, his pupils transforming into swirling vortexes. With a casual wave of his hand, the winds from all 8 directions obey him, and even the gale carrying Kunpeng is instantly brought under Wu Tian's control. Kunpeng is a mere half-meter from the seat, yet that tiny distance suddenly feels like an unreachable horizon that he simply cannot cross. Wu Tian finally speaks, his voice carrying the overwhelming majesty of an ancient chaos demon god as he notes that his fellow Taoist isn't following the rules. Before the words even finish, a massive tornado forms, wrapping around Kunpeng and hurling him backward with violent force. Each gust of wind is like a blade inscribed with divine runes, instantly shredding Kunpeng's Taoist robes and shattering his protective golden light. With a sharp cry of pain, Kunpeng is sent flying 10,000 miles away, completely unable to fight back against such overwhelming power. The crowd inside the Zixiao Palace feels a chill in their hearts, realizing that Wu Tian's arrogance is backed by terrifyingly real strength. If even a powerhouse like Kunpeng is no match for him, it is clear that his cultivation is unfathomable, and no one else dares to underestimate him now. After swatting Kunpeng away like a minor nuisance, Wu Tian returns to his calm demeanor, while Nuwa decides it is best to stop acting proud. She transforms into a streak of light and sits down obediently, feeling as though she is sitting next to a dangerous, primordial beast. Meanwhile, Laozi and Yuanshi are feeling quite distressed. After all, not everyone is as wealthy as Nuwa, and providing a dozen treasures is no easy feat. Without the legendary cauldron to mass-produce spiritual items, and having not yet received gifts from the Tao ancestor, the 3 pure ones are actually quite poor. Wu Tian seems to realize that the guests are mostly broke, so he speaks up, claiming that he doesn't actually care much for material things. He tells them not to worry, noting that he has heard Tai Ching is a master of alchemy, while Yuanshi excels in the art of forging divine tools. As for Tantian, he is a master of formations, and since Wu Tian hasn't studied these paths, he suggests a trade of knowledge instead. He asks if they would part with the fundamental laws of their respective paths. The 3 pure ones remain stoic, but inside, they are absolutely reeling at his audacity. He asks for the very essence of their paths, the spiritual light of their fundamental laws. This is no small request, as such spiritual light represents a lifetime of cultivation. Normally, a master would only pass this divine spark to their most beloved disciple when transmitting their entire legacy. Handing it over is like giving away the essence of billions of years of meditation. Naturally, they aren't exactly thrilled. As the 3 pure ones hesitate, Zhen Yuanzi quickly speaks up, offering the light of his own law of wood. Old ancestor Han Yun is even more eager, offering his law of clouds so they can secure a seat together. Wu Tian simply rolls his eyes at them. Their offers are cheap, but to him, they are quite useless. He already possesses the law of wood, and the law of clouds is, to be perfectly honest, rather redundant. Seeing others try to cut in, the 3 pure ones panic and decide to extract their own law fragments immediately. 3 clusters of light, shimmering with divine runes, appear before Wu Tian, who finally allows a satisfied smile to show. And so, each of them parts with a precious fragment of their great Tao's spiritual essence. Laozi decides to stop resisting altogether. Since he's already given up his legacy's light, a cultivation technique is nothing. With a flick of his sleeve, he sends over the 9 revolutions primordial palace technique, the Panga lineage's soul-refining method. Wu Tian specifically wanted this for Hutu, who realizes his intent and watches him with eyes full of deep emotion. With a grand wave of his hand, Wu Tian collects the 9 revolutions golden pills, the dragon tiger seal, and the Qingping sword. He acknowledges that the 3 pure ones, as Pangu's true successors, possess the merit required to take these sacred seats. The chaotic mist finally clears, and the 3 mats are revealed as Wu Tian pulls back his overwhelming presence. The 3 pure ones transform into streaks of light and dive for the seats, terrified that someone else might intercept them. In the back hall, Ancestor Han Jun is privately fuming, watching Wu Tian hijack the rewards of these future saints. He worries that when they eventually reach sainthood, they will credit Wu Tian's mercy instead of his own guidance. And so, the deal is struck. As Wu Tian declares that they are destined to become saints, a sudden thunderclap echoes outside, a sign that the heavenly Tao has acknowledged his oath. Hearing this, Yuanshi beams with joy. Since the Wu Huang has sworn upon his Tao heart, there can be no doubt that his future sainthood is secured. He offers a respectful bow, thanking Wu Tian for the guidance and promising to repay this immense karmic debt once he attains the way. Wu Tian accepts the promise lightly, though Laozi remains troubled, sensing deep down that they have been cleverly outmaneuvered. Meanwhile, Fuxi, Jin Yuanzi, and old ancestor Han Yuan find their own places to sit, while Wu Tian turns his attention elsewhere. We see him strike up a conversation with Nuwa, who, to his surprise, has not yet joined the demon clan, giving him a perfect chance to sow some discord. He is more than happy to weaken the demon clan's future strength, confident that his knowledge of Nuwa's destiny will allow him to win her over. He speaks warmly, calling her sister and suggesting that as fellow beings of Mount Bujo, they really ought to become much closer. Nuwa offers a smile of such breathtaking beauty it could topple cities, agreeing that they should certainly find time to discuss the Tao together. Wu Tian mentions his people entering Mount Bujo and hopes they won't disturb her, but she assures him her dojo is far beyond the reach of ordinary cultivators. He promises to visit her sanctuary soon, and as the two of them chat away, the atmosphere between them grows remarkably warm. Behind them, Fuxi watches with a look of pure resentment, silently pleading for his sister not to associate with this Wu Huang fellow. Having already joined the demon clan and mastered the art of divination, Fuxi knows a great war is coming and wants Nuwa nowhere near Wu Tian. However, he doesn't dare speak up, forced to watch as their heads lean closer and closer together in deep conversation. At the palace gates, the young attendant Yaoqi watches this display and mutters under her breath about how frivolous and unregal it all looks. Hao Yin, standing beside her, asks what she's whispering about, only to be told quite sharply to mind the door and stay quiet. Just as they are speaking, the gates of the Purple Cloud Palace swing open once more as two streaks of golden light flash into the hall. Two natural-born emperors appear, Di Jun and Donghuang Tai, arriving late only because they detoured to the Sun Palace to consult with Bai Zhe. They are followed closely by a figure shrouded in a black robe, radiating a chilling aura of blood and slaughter. An old man carrying two swords on his back appears, none other than the Lord of the Sea of Blood, Ancestor Mingi, followed by the battered and bruised Kunpeng. As Kunpeng flies back in, he looks at Wu Tian with eyes full of dread, while the others, each having found their place, dare not speak a word. They find a quiet spot to sit and recover as the crowd continues to file in. Meanwhile, the arrogant Donghuang Tai scans the room with a sharp gaze. His eyes lock onto Wu Tian instantly, and taking a step forward, he releases the solar divine fire, his aura completely pinning Wu Tian down with an explosive roar. Filled with endless fury, he demands to know if Wu Tian is the one who took his chaos bell, but Wu Tian doesn't even turn around, choosing instead to smile at Nuwa. He remarks that the wind is a bit noisy today and wonders where all this bird-like chirping is coming from, a comment so dismissive that Nuwa can't help but laugh. This only makes Donghuang Tai more furious. He takes another step, his terrifying magical powers surging and spreading through the Purple Cloud Palace. Wu Tian finally mocks him, asking who is calling for the Wu Huang and why they are playing with fire, unless, of course, they intend to burn down a saint's dojo. Donghuang Tai's eyes widen with rage, and he is on the verge of attacking when the more level-headed Di Jun grabs his arm and sends a telepathic warning. He tells him to stay calm, realizing Wu Tian is trying to provoke him into fighting in the saint's domain, forcing Tai to suppress his anger until his face turns pale. He can barely contain his frustration regarding the loss of his chaos bell. The treasure is the core of his very being, and seeing it in another's hands is a bitter pill to swallow. Wu Tian speaks with righteous indignation, claiming the treasure has simply returned to its rightful place, while the chaos bell itself circles him with joyful energy. It eventually nestles into Wu Tian's hand, a sight that feels like a personal betrayal to Donghuang Tai, who watches on with a suffocating sense of resentment. Yuanshi, unable to resist, chimes in to agree, asking how such a supreme treasure could ever belong to those born of mere eggs and feathers. Laozi quickly scolds his younger brother, knowing better than to get involved in a conflict between the leaders of the Wu and Demon clans. After all, there is no need to offend the Demon Emperor over a dispute about whose treasure is truly sentient or who it will answer to. Wu Tian, acting with surprising boldness, tosses the chaos bell into the air between the two parties with a grand sweep of his hand. The bell hangs in the void, radiating an infinite, divine light that leaves everyone in the palace breathless and filled with longing. Donghuang Tai looks on with renewed excitement, refusing to believe that the treasure born alongside him would ever truly choose to leave his side. For millions upon millions of years, he had tirelessly refined and nurtured this treasure, pouring his very soul into its cultivation. The atmosphere grows awkward as Wu Tian lets out a soft laugh, noting that the bell's spirit clearly doesn't belong to Tai anymore. Dongwang Tai, consumed by rage, lashes out with his immense magical power to reclaim the Chaos Bell by force. But the bell's divine will is extraordinary. It erupts in a brilliant flow of light, its golden shadow manifesting in the air. With a resonant hum, it reflects Tai's own power back at him, a betrayal he never saw coming. The recoil sends him flying backward until he slams heavily into the walls of the Purple Cloud Palace, causing cracks to spiderweb across the stone. Tai feels his blood boil with humiliation. He is usually the one reflecting attacks, not the victim of his own strength. However, after these repeated outbursts, the great Taoist Hongjun in the back hall has finally lost his patience. A cold, indifferent saintly pressure suddenly descends, forcing the gathered mighty beings to their knees like mere mortals. Even the likes of Dijun, Tai, and the three pure ones find themselves unable to resist the crushing weight. Wu Tian, who is becoming quite an expert at handling saintly pressure, actually has the strength to hold Hood as steady so she doesn't fall. A young female attendant named Yao Qi, looking as serious as a small child playing a part, steps forward to deliver a warning. She declares that anyone who fights again will be banned, prompting Wu Tian to point out that he's been perfectly well behaved. The saint casually mentioned he could just kick those two birdmen out. Hearing this, Kuenping and Dongwang Tai nearly coughed up blood from pure indignation. Who exactly did he think he was? A birdman anyway? Once the decree was delivered, Yaoqi withdrew from the palace. The crushing divine pressure began to lift, leaving those collapsed on the floor to finally catch their breath. As the three pure ones struggle back to their seats, they look at Wu Tian with deeply conflicted expressions. While they felt like ants before the saint, the Wu Huang sat there comfortably making jokes, a gap in power that is now impossible to ignore. We see that Wu Tian's strength is truly immense, marking him as the top figure beneath the saints. Hongjuan's timely display of power ensures that Dongwang Tai dares not act out again. He can only watch, eyes burning with jealousy, as Wu Tian puts away the Chaos Bell. Utterly dejected, Tai is eventually pulled away by Dijun to find a seat on the far side of the palace, far from Wu Tian's sight. This particular dispute finally comes to an end. Outside the palace, streaks of light continue to flash as powerful beings with extraordinary auras arrive, including the likes of Duke Dong and Queen Mother of the West, Ran Dang, the Nine Heavens Maiden, and others appear one by one to take their places. The number of people in the Taoist palace grows rapidly, soon approaching the count of 3,000. With only 2 spots remaining, the attendants Yao Qi and Hao Yan prepare to close the massive doors. Just as the doors are about to shut, 2 golden streaks of light fly past, barely making it in time for the lecture. As the light fades, 2 monks appear, their clothes in tatters and their bodies covered in wounds. One looks miserable while the other looks joyful. These are Juanti and Jane, arriving from the west. The moment they arrive, the 2 monks begin to wail loudly. Wu Tian's lips curl into a smirk. He knows a good show is about to begin. Juanti immediately starts his performance, his eyes filling with tears as he laments the long journey from the west, braving centuries of travel through fierce winds and lightning. He cries out that after enduring the chaos to find the Purple Cloud Palace, there isn't even a seat left for them. Brother, our lives are so bitter. Jane follows suit, claiming they traveled all this way just to hear the saint's great Tao and bring it back to the west, but without a seat. How can they hear anything clearly? He mourns for the creatures of the west, whose spiritual veins are severed, and who are now missing this divine opportunity. As he speaks, Jane's body trembles as if he is on the verge of collapse. Juanti quickly rushes to support him, looking deeply anxious. He begs the crowd, asking if any kind soul could give up a seat for his brother, who surely cannot hold on much longer. While he speaks, his eyes are fixed solely on the 6 prayer mats at the very front. The cunning pair sensed immediately that those mats held a great secret and a massive opportunity. This performance was, naturally, a plot to seize one. Just then, the kind-hearted Han Yun, sitting in the second row, stands up. Seeing their apparent frailty, he offers his own seat so the brother can hear the lecture more clearly. Juanti is momentarily speechless with frustration. To be honest, a seat without a prayer mat was useless to his scheme. Was this red-haired old man intentionally ruining his plan? Many of the mighty beings in the palace saw through the act, but the perpetually helpful Han Yun remained blissfully unaware. Han Yun warmly invites them again, insisting they take his spot to hear better, but Juanti barely manages to suppress his rising anger while forcing a smile. He thanks him for the kindness, but explains that his brother was injured by a star beast while protecting him, and the cold floor is simply too much. Claiming his brother's constitution is too weak to endure it, he asks if any fellow Taoist might grant a prayer mat seat, promising eternal gratitude. The moment Juanti mentions the prayer mats, the expressions of the Sanqing and Nuwa shift instantly. They realize this monk harbors a hidden, sinister motive. Hong Yun's face pales as he finally realizes these 2 are after the sacred mats, a dangerous game, as everyone seated there is a formidable figure. Old ancestor Han Yun immediately sits back down, while his close friend beside him can't help but send a telepathic message mocking his naive impulsiveness. Despite Juanti's plea, the 6 people on the mats ignore him completely. Seeing this, Jane uses his power to turn his face a sickly, pale gold. With a sudden cough, he spits out a mouthful of blood, a truly convincing performance, while Junti immediately begins to plead with the others again. He begs them to yield a seat as his brother is on the verge of collapse, but the Sanqing and Nuwa paid a high price for these spots. They won't budge. Junti supports the trembling Jane as they push through the crowd toward the 6 mats. To be honest, their dedication to the act was almost impressive. Jane stays fully in character, coughing up blood every few steps, yet the people on the mats remain unmoved. The Sanqing simply close their eyes. They refuse to acknowledge the Western duo's display of misery, while Wu Tian watches with an amused grin, looking as if he might clap and offer them snacks. Junti's expression darkens. This wasn't how he imagined it. Why was no one reacting? He begins to scan the 6 mat holders for a target. The Sanqing are a united front and too strong to fight. The one mocking him is Wu Tian, who is flanked by Hutu and the powerful Wu clan. The Wu clan's physical strength far exceeds an ordinary Great Luo immortal, making them a poor choice for a fight. He calculates that only Nuwa is a soft target. Even with Fushi protecting her, Junti believes that if he and his brother strike together, they can force her out. He suddenly shouts a Buddhist command. Using a thunderous voice, he questions how a mere woman can sit among the Pango lineage, demanding she vacate her seat immediately for someone more worthy. Nuwa never expected Junti to be so bold as to launch a sneak attack with a Buddhist roar. After all, the saint's presence usually keeps everyone in line. She assumed no one would dare start a fight in the Purple Cloud Palace, and caught off guard, the divine technique rattles her very soul. Her form wavers as she tumbles from the prayer mat. Fushi, eyes wide with fury, moves to catch her, but another hand reaches out first. A large hand moves even faster, catching Nuwa firmly by her slender waist. It is Wu Tian, whose physical strength instantly stabilizes her. Nuwa finds herself unable to move, held securely back onto the prayer mat. Once she recovers from the shock, a wave of lingering fear washes over her. Feeling the warmth of that large hand, her heart trembles inexplicably. Meanwhile, Wu Tian begins to scold the duo, calling them thieves who arrived late only to cause trouble. He declares that Nuwa, formed from the world's first Yin energy, is of noble lineage and perfectly entitled to her seat. Why should she yield to a dying monk? Wu Tian remarks that even seeing Jane sit would be bad luck. If he is so weak that a mere beast nearly killed him, he shouldn't be here at all. He warns that their incompetence might lead Western souls astray. He tells them to get to the back, near the door, unless they want him to discuss the Tao personally. As Wu Tian takes the lead, the other powerful figures in the Purple Cloud Palace begin to voice their own dissatisfaction with the 2 monks. Cries of "get to the back" fill the room, with many questioning what kind of men bully a woman or act so arrogantly after arriving late. They agree with Wu Tian, feeling ashamed to even be in the same room as the duo. Under the weight of these insults, Junti's face begins to change colors rapidly. Nuwa, however, simply stares at Wu Tian in a daze. To be honest, this was the very first time a man had ever stood up for her like this. She knew that sneak attack was incredibly dangerous. Had she fallen, her chance at a saint's seat would have vanished forever. Just then, a voice echoes in her mind. It is a telepathic message from Wu Tian, sounding gentle and providing a strange sense of security. He reminds her that since he took her treasures, he owes her. He jokingly calls it after-sales service and promises she will be satisfied. Nuwa has no idea what that means, but her face turns a bright, lovely red. Her phoenix-like eyes glance at his righteous expression as she sends a message back, thanking him, but asking if his hand could perhaps stop wandering. It seems the great emperor was taking a bit of a liberty while protecting her. As the saying goes, a woman's waist is not something to be touched lightly. For Nuwa, experiencing this kind of bold physical contact was an entirely new and overwhelming sensation. Behind them, Fushi witnesses the entire scene, his eyes practically spitting fire. He desperately wants his sister to struggle, even just a little bit. But no matter how much Fushi screams internally, Nuwa remains perfectly still on her mat, showing no intention of pulling away from Wu Tian's arm. Only her reddened ears betray the lack of calm in her heart. Fortunately for them, everyone else is far too focused on Junti and Jane to notice. While the secret exchange continues, Junti finds himself pointed at by 1,000 fingers, his expression shifting wildly as he considers his next move. The monk cried out until he spat up a mouthful of blood, looking as though he couldn't bear the humiliation. Meanwhile, no one noticed that a figure had appeared on the high platform. An old Taoist in white robes had materialized out of thin air. It was Hong Jun, the ancestor of the Tao. His hair was white, his face majestic, and his eyes were as calm as a bottomless well. He seemed like the supreme heavenly Tao itself. As the saint appeared, the crowd in the Purple Cloud Palace stopped their shouting and immediately bowed in deep, respectful prayer. They greeted the saint with reverence, but Junti took it a step further. He slammed his head against the floor so hard that he split his forehead open, letting his blood flow freely.